Hi, I'm Pat Ingram, and I'm doing my final campaign over gun control. Gun control is a major issue in today's society. Coming from Indiana, I have witnessed so much gun violence growing up. Indiana has the highest rate of black homicide victims in the country. According to the study by the FBI, there were 213 homicide victims in Indiana in 2013, or 34.15 victims per 100,000 people. And I bring this up because I'm from Indiana, I live in Indiana, and I just seen so much people and just so many homicides around my neighborhood and just different places that I've grown up that's been a part of Indiana, and it gets bad every year. And about 2 years ago, I had one of my best friends. His name was Richie Walden. He was shot and killed over something that was so small and uh, just a crazy situation that led into his death. And that was another reason why that this was a big topic for me. And it was just like that. Those was one of the 213 homicides that was in that year. And actually, my sophomore year of high school, I was actually shot, but I was fortunate enough to make it through. But I've dealt with gun violence on a personal note myself, my family, different family members all across Indiana, and every year it just continues to grow and get worse. Some of the key gun violence statistics: more than 33,000 people are fatally shot each year. We focus more on mass shootings, terrorism, police versus civilian shootings, but two-thirds of the gun deaths are suicides. Another third of gun deaths, about 12,000 in total each year, are homicides. 1,700 women are killed each year, many in domestic violence incidents. Women are less likely to be gun homicide victims. In 2013, 1,670 children ages from 0 to 18 died by gunshot, and additional 9,718 were injured. And that's why my target audience is teens, because you see a lot of people that's younger, that's 18 and younger, that's doing a lot of these crimes and that's committing these homicides in these states such as Chicago and Indiana. A lot of those homicides, if you look up the statistics, many of them are 18 years old, 17 years old. Even with my personal experience, when I was shot, I was only 16 years old. My best friend that was shot, he was only 17, 18 years old. So a lot of these people that are committing these crimes are younger people who don't have those things to take them away from the streets or another outlet or stuff that's just taking them away from the violent crimes they're committing. When it comes to fixing the problems in these communities, Chicago is one of the states that I think about the most, because that is one of the biggest states that has the so many. You hear about so many homicides in that state, like every year, so many times, and it's like always at the top of the charts on homicides per year. And Chicago has one of the highest violent crime rates and gun crime rates in the nation. Ironically, they also have some of the most strict gun control laws in the nation, and some of those laws are basically, it states to legally possess a firearm or ammunition, Illinois residents must have a firearm owner identification card. You must be 21 years of, or older, and you have to pass 16 hours of training course. Any law enforcement can object to an individual being granted a license based on reasonable suspicion that the applicant is dangerous to themselves or others. And ironically, there's so many people in Chicago that are able to access guns just on a freely basis. It's so easy to just go get a gun, and it's really ironic that they have the one of the strict, more strict gun laws that any other state has. No other state requires training. No other state requires that you have to. The law enforcement can object. No other state has some of these laws that Chicago have, but yet Chicago is always one of those states that you see that are top on the charts on homicides that's come from guns and people accessing guns, or not even homicides, it's just gun control or gun violence. And this past year, the city has recorded more homicides and shooting victims than New York City, and Los Angeles combined. And their rate, if you can see at the chart below, 697 homicides in 2016 already. And like I said, those come from all gun violence, and they have the more strict gun laws, and yet they still get a chance to access these guns. And all of the people that are doing this are young teenagers from 18, 17, 15. You rarely ever see older people or more wise people commit these crimes. It's all teenagers and younger, the youth that's actually doing it. The people who in these communities, the minority communities, or that don't have much in those communities, or that don't have another option but to go and do these things, steal, get guns, and do other things. In these communities, you have to give them other options to do something with their free time. In these cities, especially Chicago, there's not, and I'm actually, my whole family's from Chicago, so I got personal experience with this too. There's not a lot of stuff to do that's proactive in those communities in Chicago, so a lot of those people resort to those violent habits. And that brings me to my next slide about access to guns. There's just so many states. I've listed a couple: Arizona, Alaska, and where I'm from, Indiana, that doesn't even require you to have a permit to carry. And that's one of the things that I feel like needs to be changed, because if you don't need a permit, that means you don't have to go to any classes. You don't have to do anything. You just go there, show your license, okay, do a little background check, and then they'll give you access to a gun, ammunition, and everything. And that's, I mean, a lot of criminals that don't get caught with certain things, that don't have a background, that's getting guns for the wrong intentions, can just go and get guns. Like in Indiana, that's how a lot of people get guns in Indiana, or if they're registered, they don't have criminal backgrounds, but they have wrong intentions, so they go and get a gun. And all 50 states have passed a law allowing qualified individuals to carry certain concealed firearms in public, either or without a permit or designated government authority. And like I said, that's just not something that we need to do, because there's so many people out there that can just access these guns, and they just go along the streets. They can buy multiple guns to pass them off, and there's just a lot of guns out in the street. And even some of the gun permit laws and consequences, if you get caught, some states are they only suspend your permit, or they only suspend it for 6 months. And that, I just feel like that's not good enough for the more homicides that we have in these states such as Indiana and Chicago, and those states that, like the minority states that you see are at top of the charts, and those are the worst ones that have these laws and consequences that are minor consequences. When it comes to fixing these communities, like I mentioned, the Indiana community, Chicago community, Alaska communities that have these problems, speaking out will help these communities. And I feel like a lot of people that are higher powered, that have a voice in this world, can help, and that have money to help these communities. Many celebrities have spoken out of the issue going on in their communities with the gun-related homicides. Those speaking can only do so much. Without the help of the government, not much can be resolved. And I know, as far as people speaking out, rapper, of native Chicago rapper Common, he's very big in the community. He does a lot for his community, and he's actually tried to speak up and say stuff about it, quoting, "Politic figures like Trump have had used issues to justify and distract from other problems like police brutality. What are you doing to help that situation?" He also raised the question, if you know the situation exists, have you ever reached out to do something? Are you actively doing something, or are you just mentioning? It is as ploy just to combat what's going on, and to distract. And again, like he said, there's a lot of people that just mention stuff and don't really push and be active towards what they're saying. There's so many people that have a voice that can affect change, and if they just do that, I feel like a lot of people could change these communities, because that it's so many people that people look up to that they don't even know that can just one word or just helping out, starting organizations that'll help these communities, getting people off the streets, getting guns out of these communities, these minority communities, and just helping out, just speaking out, saying something, getting others involved, getting friends involved that are higher power too, or have a voice in their community, or have influence on people. Once we do that, then I feel like a lot of the things will change.